Okay, so
Hmm.
okay, so one of the things I like to do with guests on here is get them to introduce themselves. So please, you tell us who you are, and so don't hold anything back. This is not a time to be shy or coy or anything. Tell everybody everything you want them to know about you.
Yeah, that I feel like this is always the hardest part about self-intro, right? Because it oftentimes it speaks to your own personal values or your own
Yeah,
personal self, and what you consider to be important.
yeah, yeah.
I was thinking about that earlier on. I was like, what would I even say? Who am I? But first and foremost, my name. So I'm Michael Kamumvu. That's the the best version of my name that I can give you. So I'm an international speaker. I am strangely enough, I'm also a PT. I am a musician at times
You
when I
have to do
feel
all
like
of that again because I was in the video. Okay, bye.
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah.
Should
He's
I?
got, yeah. He's finally gone. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. All right. So I'll start that part again. So my name is Michael Kamumvu. So I'm an international speaker. I have had the grace to share the word and preach in different countries, different cities. So I am also a personal trainer in my spare time. At least I was for a long period of time, and I work in sales. Presently, I'm chilling, but software sales. That's been my current sort of venture in life.
Yeah.
Um, and I'm a husband. That's been my current greatest achievement. I say achievement because my wife is a babe. And- no, it has been the most wonderful thing. And then I'm the eldest in my among my siblings. Eldest. I have three sisters and a brother. I have what else about me? Wow. Oh yes, I'm a musician. I play bass. Been playing bass since I was about 15, 14, 15. Like a couple of those years were forced.
I can relate.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I was
I
like,
can
you want
relate.
to play bass?
Yeah,
I don't want to play.
there wasn't even a question. Here's a base.
There was no choice. Like it
Yeah,
was like, here's the bass. I
yeah,
don't know what this instrument is.
yeah.
Just yeah. And it made no noise. I was like, but I can't hear it. Like it was like, yeah, it needs to be plugged in. Like, I don't want that. But I actually, if anything, I was when I had started, I was singing and I was playing keyboard.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah, and I've forgotten everything. I was like, it was basic keyboard. It was just chords. It was just, I was just like,
Yeah. Okay.
1 1 4 5.
Did,
I 1 4 5
did,
everything.
did you have like a musical inspiration when you were when it was little Michael playing the keyboard and singing?
Um, it's that's it's a loaded question because I'm Congolese, right? And musical inspiration is DNA. It's basically every whether or not so we were most of us were born into a church setting, but whether or not you were, most of us were exposed to music from a very young age.
Okay.
And there are layers to it that are negative, sort of have a negative history. There is a history to it that, if we went
Okay.
into, we'll go into Leopold II and
Okay.
oppression and slavery and all of that. There's a whole layer to it. But
Okay.
ultimately, Congolese people We love our music. We have very you know, there's most people around are like, oh, Congolese people and their dress the way they dress and so forth, and how, you know, their shoes and all of that's fun, but it's never been my particular proclivity.
Yeah,
I
okay.
prefer. I was more inclined towards the music, so you're kind of drawn towards either one. Sometimes
So
both.
from a Congolese culture, unless you're a fashionista, if you're not a fashionista, it's you're a muso. You have a choice.
No, it's like there's a you're just exposed to music very early.
Yeah,
You're
okay.
exposed to music, and the music is so complex as well, you know, and it almost forms part of our identity and our culture. A lot of the times, you've seen a lot of the tribes, a lot of the tribal settings, you know, and I'm sure you can relate maybe within other African cultures it's similar, but music is an integral part
Okay.
of cultural meetings and so forth, and so we were always from a young age introduced to music, and
Yeah.
then if you grew up in the church, you will always encouraged
Yeah.
to then, you know, to then enter now. That wasn't the case for me until, like I said, until I was about 14 or so. But I'd say about 15. At 13 and 14, that was when I was encouraged greatly to
Hmm.
stand on a platform and hold a mic. That was
Okay.
my very first time speaking publicly. Was
Was that a message that you gave, or was that like a translation?
No. So, oh, another thing that I'm an interpreter.
Yes,
So,
yeah.
I've been interpreting since I was about 13. I'm 34. So it's been a long time.
Yeah.
Essentially, what happened? So when we moved to London, the church that my dad was going to here in London, sorry, we the pastor there, there was an interpreter, but he was sort of he wasn't there all the time. So he would interpret from French or Lingala to English.
Yeah.
And then there was a particular time, for one reason or the other, he wasn't coming as regularly as before. And so the late Pastor Michaud, he said, Michael, it's just I remember he was giving us something. He goes, you get kids could you know, interpret too. You have good English speaking skills. I'm looking around like, yeah, kids, yeah, guys. You know, I'm looking around at all these people who are slightly older than me, like, you
Yeah.
know, just have in my head at the time, maybe potentially, I believe that they had a better grasp of the English language. And so he said, and then he just Hey, it's like which
You better
Michael?
do.
Yeah, because there was another Michael.
Yeah,
So
okay.
yeah, it's just, and he points at me. I'm like, He's like,
Uh,
come on. And my dad's looking at me like, I'm like, no.
yeah.
Just, eventually, you know, fear won over, and I get up on stage.
Yep.
And they, you know, he hands me this mic. I was like, I said, sorry, I've never done this. Like the
Yeah.
most interpreting I've done is my parents asked me to read something, translate. And I was like, oh yeah, this says this.
Yeah.
Um, or somebody spoke into English and I translated it or interpreted it to somebody else
Yeah.
in actual Lingala, mostly my grandmother. But that was it. But now this is like live interpreting.
Yeah.
So everything he's saying, I have to then relay that message
Yeah. Yeah.
across. And so the whole time I'm speaking, I grew up very shy. And you find it sometimes I like my eyes will like sway or like I won't always like, but it's something that when I'm on stage, you don't see it.
Yeah.
But in that setting, oftentimes especially at the beginning, my head was like this.
Yeah.
I'm just like, Yes, and in the beginning,
Yeah.
in the beginning,
Yeah.
it was so he would speak and I would try and relay what he's saying, and that was baptism by fire,
So
basically.
I have two questions. The first question
Yeah.
is, do you think that you would have done something like that without having to do it by force?
Mm.
And now in your 30s, what do you think about that? And what do you think about that in the context of the phrase "nothing is wasted"?
Yeah. So no, I don't think I would have done. Uh, you know what? So there was a heart of desire in me to sorry, desire to serve in me.
Okay.
Because being a PK, I don't know if we're born with it, but I feel like it appears. It
For
just
those of you
appears.
who don't know, PK is pastor's kid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it just appears. There was a willingness in me to do something. So as I said, at that time I was singing a lot more. So that was it was more interesting for me to be maybe part of the worship team and sing. Um, I was always very good at English at school. I never thought about it in the context of speaking it out loud, and
Hmm.
so that was never a consideration. But had Pastor Watchy never said to me, Michael, stand here and do this,
Yeah.
because within a year of that, there was a conference that they were holding, I think, for several other churches in London at the time. And I was the main interpreter for all the speakers.
Wow. How many people were in attendance?
I can't remember. We're talking 20 years ago now. So
Yeah.
uh, it was, there was a couple. There was within the hall itself, I'd say there was at least 100 in there,
Yeah. Yeah.
but it has a space in the back where more people can
Yeah. Okay.
and it was over a 3-day period, so
Okay.
people would be
Yeah.
inside on a regular
Yeah.
basis. And so that was it was I
Yeah.
was at the time that was a shock, and I had to wear a shirt for the first time. I didn't have a shirt. I literally went to Asda and bought a shirt.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Actually, one of the uncles, one of the deacons, he went and bought a shirt for me. He's like, "What's your size?" I was like,
I don't know.
yeah. He eyeballed my neck, and he was like, "Okay."
Yeah. Yeah. That'll do.
Yeah. He goes, "I'm just gonna go to Asda and Tesco, whichever one was down the road," and he just grabbed me a shirt because I
Wow.
wore what I thought was smart clothing.
It
Um,
was.
it was a t-shirt,
Yeah.
and I still had some school trousers. Yeah, and I put some school trousers on because I wasn't going to wear my school shirt. It
Yeah.
had my badge on it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so I wore my school trousers and I think it was like a long sleeve t-shirt.
Okay.
Um, and he brought me a shirt, like a button up,
Yeah. Yeah.
and and I had black trainers on. That was the closest they were going to get to me wearing shoes.
Yeah.
So, and I've never been a fan of wearing smart clothes.
Yes.
As
I'm
what we
aware.
yeah. I don't believe them to be a complete necessary unless your work requires it, but that's another story.
Yeah. Get off your.
Staying on point. Staying on point. I don't think I would have done the role because I didn't believe that was something that I was capable of.
Okay.
I didn't know it was within me. Or that it was a skill that one could develop. My
Yeah. Okay.
understanding of these speakers, preachers, and so on was like, bam, like you get this calling on your life, and then
That's it.
boom, there
Yeah.
you are.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Now you're speaking. And then
Did you
to
ever
your
ask Pastor afterwards why he picked you? Like, was it inspiration? Was it just?
Never asked them. That's actually fascinating. I've never asked him. But that's not to say that he never hinted as to why.
Yeah, okay.
He often, a lot of times, he'll talk to me. It's like, you should, Michael, you should be doing this. There's so many things for you to do. I feel like you should do this, and there were times I'll help with the children in the kids, what's it called, the kids' church,
Understood.
the Sunday school, yeah. I help around with that, and and he was like, yeah, no, there's something in your life. Now, that's been said in my life for a very long time.
Okay.
People have been saying that to me since I was, so as long as my memory goes back.
Yeah.
Oftentimes I just chalked it up to my surrounding,
Yeah. It's the thing
Yeah.
that people say in this setting.
Yeah, exactly. You're around a certain type of people, they will say a certain type of thing.
Yeah.
Anything you do that's a little bit different than other kids, oh, there's something on your life.
You didn't take him seriously. No. Okay.
But when it started being prominent, people, guest speakers and people that arrived at the church back home in Congo and later on, I remember, this is a bad story. I remember when I was a kid, I was maybe 7, 8, and because they kept saying this thing, because I was, like I said, I grew up in this surrounding, so my understanding of prayer was like you pray with loud noises and
Yeah.
extravagant words and all of this, right? And so you had to I would just do all of that, copy what I saw, essentially.
Yeah.
It meant something, but it didn't have the meaning it has now.
Yeah.
And then so I did have a dream, and I remember seeing this. There was this prophet that came he was doing this as a seminar in our church for that period of time. And he was such a cool guy, and I just really wanted to impress him.
Yeah.
And so because everybody was saying all these things about me, I was just like, yeah. So I found myself in like the overnight prayer meetings that they were having, and I was why I was there. And I'm just like, yeah, I dreamt this, and that, and I saw, I remember saying I saw, so there was a boy that was bothering me, and I said, oh yeah, there was this boy that bothered me, and oh, sorry, thank you very much. Sorry, my wife just passed me my charger. Thank you. And I was like, there was this boy that bothered me, and I saw him, and and he said he wanted to fight me. So I was like, hold on 1 second, and I went home and I prayed, and I came back, and he ran away.
This was a dream.
This was a lie. This was a lie.
I was gonna say it's a bit of a daydream,
it was a lie. I made it up. It was a made up story. That never happened. But he was like, wow, yeah. See, you have to be fervent in prayer. All of this, and I'm just like, yeah.
Is this guy prophet?
Well, all I know is
check his credentials, bro.
we oftentimes put a lot on kids in church. And it's okay. I'll do it. Thank you. That's right. Thank you very much. Thank you. And yeah, we often put a lot on kids in church, and like I said, you see a little bit of something. You see a little bit of something in them, and you think, "Oh yeah, you're gonna be something." And it's pressure. It's pressure. Now all of a sudden, you get this desire in you. It's more about I want to please, rather than tapping into whatever it is that's in you, or discovering what it is that's in you.
Yeah. Okay.
So now it's more about being extravagant or being better than somebody else, or I want to be the standout so more people can notice me. Rather than having a conversation as to what these things are that people are seeing in you. You know, what potential are you seeing in me? What what does that mean? I'm still a child. I don't understand
Yeah,
what potential is.
yeah,
I think that it can. Recently I had a conversation with Pastor Shade about one of the young people, and she said, I don't like to give individuals, certain individuals, too much too early,
yeah,
because it can create in them, it can put an idea in their head,
yeah,
and maybe they're not yet used to that level.
yeah.
Yeah,
Well, I mean, it's an interesting point you make because it's like it's about character and dealing with wonderful blessings and stuff. So people always talk about money and power and stuff and that these things corrupt, but I think they just reveal. That's my opinion, and I think you're right in that there's the discipleship that is necessary to make somebody worthy of the weight of any elevation. So you're going to be a speaker now, that means you're going to be more prominent. Some people will use that and then get girls or get prominence or get money and stuff. Whereas it's still a gift that you have, but it's a responsibility as on top of that. Just
yeah,
because one of the themes through this is our younger selves, but I'm very intrigued at the concept of a young Michael in church being told all these things. So now being on this side of your life, if you what would you not what would you have wanted? What do you think would have been a good thing for maybe the grown-ups around you or the adults around you to be saying that maybe they didn't say, other than, oh, God's going to use you. You've got something on
yeah,
your lives.
yeah. I think it's a matter of nurturing, and in every sense of the word, nurturing. I don't believe that we, and I speak of myself specifically, but within the confines of the people that I saw and that I knew and that I grew up with, I don't believe that we were nurtured enough for the things that we were required to do, for the roles that we were set up to do, and even for the gifts that we had within us.
Mm.
Um, some, I think that some things that we do and we do well are manifestations of a gift that we don't know that we have.
Yeah, okay.
Um, so you might be given the let's say, okay, you're gonna be the leader of the worship team. There is a particular gift in you for something but this isn't necessarily
Yeah,
the
yeah,
avenue for which your gift will shine.
yeah,
But your gift is your gift, and
yeah,
somehow there's an aspect of your gift or a facet of your gift that will make you very good at this thing.
yeah,
But we're never taught to explore what the actual gift is.
yeah, 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 yeah.
Kind of like in medicine, sometimes people treat the symptoms rather than the cause.
Then the cause, yeah, yeah. I know what you mean. So
Yeah.
I take your point. I do think that. I mean, I think discipleship is a really big thing. Because that in the series of preaching that we've been having at church recently, one of the themes that came up is that God using you or a gift is an evidence of a submitted life or a life that necessarily is holy or whatever. And I think especially so I think there are certain aspects of Christendom in general that idolizes gifts. But I think it's a very easy thing for a young person to see a gifted person and say, I want to be like that. But all they're seeing is the outside show. And they're not necessarily seeing, A, was there a cost to this?
Mm.
And B, is there also a life that is close to God
Mhm.
as well as that? Because if we're not careful, we have a lot of gifted people who might be living a life that's not necessarily everything that God wants for them. And then young people are being, oh, okay, well, this person who is being used
Yeah.
is also doing these things. Therefore, it must be okay for me to do. What do you think about?
Yeah, I definitely so um growing up, I was surrounded by talented people, surrounded by gifted people, people whom for one reason or another were in the position that they were in, but there were also people who were in that position and were unhappy about being in that position.
Okay.
They never wanted to be in that position. Never had any desire to be in that position. I didn't know that. I just saw them and I thought they were cool.
Yeah.
It wasn't until I was behind the scenes now I was,
Yeah.
this is the reality of the situation.
Yeah.
Musicians who brought us into music who were like, we're just bringing you in so you can replace us. And
Yeah.
and I'm like, I don't what?
Yeah. Yeah.
With children, So and it's I think the idolizing part is very key because a lot of times it'd be like, look at Michael. You see what he's doing? Look at how he's doing it. Look at what he's and I'm stood there and I'm having to relay this, to some of these young kids who don't
Translation.
speak, yeah, who don't
So
speak
would you
violence.
say it in the third person? Oh, they'd be like, look at me, look at me.
I would just say, look at Michael. I just carry on. It was very awkward because for one, I didn't feel like a role model.
Yeah.
I didn't want to be a role model.
Yeah.
I definitely wasn't a role model. But I was self-aware enough to know
Yeah.
this. However, even with that self-awareness, it doesn't always, there's always the human thing to do is to mask that,
Yeah.
to create a persona that you can show to other people.
Mm.
This is who I am, or at least this is who I need to be for you to accept me.
Yeah. Yeah.
So which is what we all did and what I excelled at. Because excuse me, depending on your surrounding, I think in certain households you're taught that from very early on,
Yeah.
that I have to appear a certain way
Yeah.
in order to survive, in order to live here.
Yeah.
And so you become accustomed to the idea of wearing masks. And so that was me, expert mask wearer.
Very. Yeah. And okay, so again, you're you now, and let's say you met you at church,
Mm.
13, 14, 15, translating, feeling like you're living a double life almost. What would you say to 15-year-old Michael?
Yeah. 15-year-old Michael was going through it, I tell you. So I there's a few things that really come to mind. The first thing I'll do is give him a hug and tell him it's okay. You don't have to carry the world. You don't have to be ashamed. And it's okay to stumble and
Mm.
fall.
Mm.
Um, those things are perfectly fine. They're part of walking. You
Yeah.
watch a child, they get up, they fall, they get up, they fall, they get up, they fall.
Yeah.
And if they stayed on the floor, they'll never walk.
Yeah.
But they get up every time.
Mm.
And if they fall and everybody screams, and it might take them longer to try again.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
my mother and my grandmother, they would often be like, let them fall.
Yeah.
Let them. And so I wanna, helping raise my my siblings, my cousins, and so forth. And just watch them fall. Like, it's okay. Just you can get up. And they will look at me. So I remember my little cousin in France. He stayed with us over the summers. He learned to walk with me. So he would like try and stand up he would look at me. I'm like, looking at him, and he'll fall down. And then like you could see he wants to cry.
Yeah.
So I just look at him, I'll just smile, and then he'll be like, okay.
Yeah.
And then he'll try again.
Yeah.
Or maybe he'll take a moment, sit down a bit, contemplate life,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
then
And then try
try
again.
again.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so to do those concepts for other people,
Yeah.
I couldn't do it for me.
Mm.
It was an impossibility in my mind at the time that I could have grace, that I could have mercy, um, that I could be loved, and not to say that I wasn't loved.
Yeah. Yeah. To
But
receive.
yeah, it was difficult to receive it, but it was also there's a concept in a lot of Black families about they give you love the way that they consider love to be love.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, you have food, you have clothes, you have a roof. That's love.
Love.
But some people, everybody's different. Everybody has certain sensitivities, and everybody's idea of love is different, and
Yeah.
everybody's idea of affection is different. And I think that I lacked affection. I sought affection outside, but the world oftentimes is not affectionate. And so for a very long period of time, since maybe age 10, I was in and out of hospital. And that didn't stop until I was about 22. So around maybe 14, maybe 14, yeah, 14, 15, I exhibited all the signs of depression.
Mm.
All the signs, but like in hindsight.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And as the years went on, I finally, eventually had a conversation with my doctor, and they were like, "You might be depressed." I said,
Hmm.
"That's a white person thing."
Happens when I get depressed. You got time for
we, don't,
that?
we don't get depressed. Okay. Yeah, yeah. We go through it. We don't get depressed. We suffer, but we don't get depressed. Yeah. So, and as being depressed as a child is an experience. It's but as as the years have gone on, as I started to review life and talk to more young people, there are more children that are depressed than we are aware of, than we pay attention to. And nobody notices. You don't have anyone. The people that you feel like you can look up to, the people you feel like you can have a conversation with, they feel like distant individuals.
Yeah.
They only talk to you about certain things.
Yeah.
If you grew up in a church setting, they'll mostly only talk to you about church.
Yeah.
Mostly only talk to you about the Bible. In that time period, I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't see how this relates to my life.
Yes. Yeah.
No. And you're not helping me understand it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Your answer to everything is you're not praying enough.
Yeah. That's it.
You're not praying enough. You're not reading your Bible enough.
Yeah.
That's not. I don't see how that affects the fact that, sir, I have been in pain since I was 10 years old.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
How is this? Can you comprehend my mental status?
Yeah.
I heard a pastor said to me once, and he wasn't the only one. This was several other people, members and so forth, people who knew me, grew up with me. It's like, why are you always in hospital? Why are you always sick? You should stand up and pray, but you should fight against that. It means that something is wrong in your life. You're not doing something in your. I'm a child. I'm like, oh. So I was right. I am wrong. Something is wrong with me.
Yeah.
There is something broken in me, because clearly the reason I'm constantly sick It's
Yeah.
because I'm doing something.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
And
It's,
I
it's
don't.
not like the disciples saying to Jesus with the man born blind.
Yes. What did he do? Who sinned?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Who sinned?
Mhm.
Was it him or his parents? Yeah.
Exactly. So, and now I'm sat here, and my relationship with my parents is very strained. Um, my relationship with my family was strained. And then my parents did this fantastic thing of putting me on a pedestal in front of my siblings. And so now there was resentment within my siblings
Yeah.
towards me that I didn't know about until I was older. So, and by grace, I have worked very hard, and we have replenished this relationship. We have I think once I left home, I got a better understanding of it. And I
Yeah.
started to speak to them more and reach out to them and have better conversations with them and try to be that person that I didn't have
Okay.
for them. And so now they can come to me with anything. And they know that I'll just sit there and be like, yeah, yeah, sure. I think one of the things that I say to them is there is nothing that you have done that is so incredibly bad that I haven't done. So let's just start as a base.
Yeah.
That's your base right there.
Yeah.
Whatever you've done, I've done worse. Let's
Yeah.
start there.
Yeah.
Okay. So once they have, so that dispels any idea that they have in their head of this perfect Michael that's been
Yeah.
built to them.
Yeah.
And then they feel comfortable to be able to talk to me. And that's, I think I remember I had this conversation with some this younger lady. She was she's like a lead or a deaconess in this church in Wolverhampton, and they did a similar interview like this, and they asked me about about young musicians and growing up as a young musician in the church. And I said to them, I said the problem is that the people in the church that have been set up as our leaders have this semblance of perfection.
Yeah.
I can't relate to you.
Yeah.
I can't. I don't think that you have the struggles that I have.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't think that you have gone through the things that I have. I don't think you have the challenges that I have.
Yeah.
And you portray yourself to be on this horse that's pure white, and you're dressed in pure white, and I can't approach you.
Yeah.
You're
Okay.
holier than God.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
I can't talk to you.
Yeah. I hear that.
My life is a shambles. I can't
Yeah.
talk to you.
Okay. That was going to be one of my next questions also. Like, what can so thinking about young Michael, 15-year-old Michael, what can the church do? Is there anything the church needs to do differently to make ourselves more accessible? Because I think we're losing our young people, and there's a strong pull. And I think I don't know whether that's just a thing that's always happened, but it just seems maybe because of where I am in age that we're losing a lot of young people. They're getting older, they're graduating from college, they're going to uni, or they're getting jobs, and they're not the Sunday school kids anymore. They have questions, they have doubts, they have struggles that the church doesn't necessarily seem to be, addressing head on. So is there anything the church needs to do differently? And if so, what would that be, do you think? What would have helped young Michael?
Yeah, so they are definitely straying. I think that a really important point is to know that they've had these questions for a long time.
Mm.
And oftentimes, those questions are not answered at home. So I think there is minimal family support. And I know that very especially, I will always use myself as an example, but especially within my family, oftentimes it felt like there were groups of family within the family.
Mm.
And so your problem is your problem, and then their problem is their problem.
Yeah.
And I think that everybody's growing up in a silo, and so that they don't believe that let's deal with our issues internally.
Okay.
but those issues aren't being dealt with internally,
Okay.
or at least they're not being dealt with properly,
Okay.
or in a way that's beneficial to both, the parents and the child.
Yeah.
Um, Oftentimes, the parents themselves have issues together, whether it's two-person household, two-person parents, or one person in the. Oftentimes, there's issues between the mother and father. Oftentimes, there are issues between the parents and the children. Or the parents have issues within their own parents that they haven't dealt with. Our people historically don't believe in therapy, with but there's a lot of stigma that was attached to it over the years, and
Yeah.
the treatment that we received as a result of that. But also, so now there's this bad taste in our mouth. I remember the first time I told told my father I was having therapy. That was a very bad experience. But we passed that now.
Yeah.
So it's they don't believe in therapy. They don't believe in dealing with their own trauma. Some of the stories that my parents would tell me, and I said, if I lived through that, I don't know if I'd come out the other side.
Yeah.
But I went through 2 wars. Yeah. And the ramifications of that were manifested in my life in my teenage years, in my early 20s. Sometimes even now, I'll sometimes see these things pop up. How much more then?
Yeah. Yeah.
I went through 2 wars. They also went through 2 wars.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So but they're unwilling to have these conversations. They're unwilling to seek help. People, for example, even something as simple as counseling. Let's speak on a marital point of view. I remember saying to somebody that, Jess and I are having counseling. Well, first we're having couples therapy. I'm like, is something wrong? We're intending to get married, so we decided that we should have couples therapy, to ensure that our baggages are removed. That we're dealing with our baggage, we're dealing with the things that we're bringing into this union. So we started having that before we got to the date, and after the date. Marital counseling oftentimes in the church is like, just a little period of time, a few weeks before your wedding, and this is very much, sometimes it's very good, and ours was very good, very good. And then maybe you might have it a few more times, and then it's done. All right, go now, be married.
Yeah, I've always found that really strange. You get married and then okay, later.
Right. Which is one of the reasons why I'm very glad that I grew up in this particular culture that I did, when within the church culture that I grew up, we have godparents who then you can have that sort of relationship with, where we can discuss things with an external party that we can trust. Now, I think that's a concept that can be explored or to the wider body, because I think that if we're continuing with the concept of marriage and having children within that union, then I think that it needs to be explored before children arrive.
Absolutely.
And so helping people to deal with their traumas beforehand, helping people to deal with the shock of living with somebody else. The shock of trusting. Essentially, I remember he said to me some time ago, he said about, I'm giving you my heart knowing that you're going to hurt me.
Yeah, that's marriage.
Yeah.
The full quote is, I think I remember I was listening to something that said, marriage is saying this, giving you my heart and hoping you don't hurt me, but I know that you will. So before you get married, and understand that truth. But I think we're kind of dancing around the concept of like mentorship and coaching and community as like a protective mechanism for maybe staving off some of the things that people are dealing with because they don't have an outlet.
Yeah.
Now, so and we're talking about the church being a place that can do that. So what I mean, so I'm an uncle. There are uncles who are like, look, I recognize the issue, but I don't know what to do. I don't know how do we approach these young people without being like, yeah, hey man, how, how you doing, man,
I'm
man?
cool, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Without being like a dumb one, one of
Oh man.
uh,
It's
Neek.
it's really difficult. It's
Yeah,
really difficult. Because no matter how much I want to remain young, I'm so far
yeah,
removed.
yeah,
Yeah, right. Like even there's a 10-year gap between myself and my middle sister. And sometimes she'll say things and I'm like, huh? And she's 24.
yeah,
And like, but it's like, and I'm watching their like little, like tiny little culture, their little generation of people,
yeah,
and I'm like, this is a different world.
yeah. It's different. It's different.
That's just a 10-year gap,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
you know. And it's like, but you see that sometimes with a 5-year gap. Some like there are such small little things that I remember when like my sister, the oldest of my sister, she's 2 years younger than me. But there are things that she'll say, and I'm like, my answer really is you need to grow up just a little bit more and you'll understand.
yeah, yeah,
But that's only 2 years.
yeah,
I'll say that in a better way, but
yeah.
it's just like you're like just grow up just a little bit.
Yeah,
And have just a little bit more life experience than you.
yeah, and then you'll see.
Yeah, right. So I think the difficulty is that relation.
Mm.
Um, okay, so let's say outside of the home. So if because often we're not going to enter your house and tell you how to talk to your children. But at the very least, I think if we can encourage conversations at home,
Mm.
whenever I speak to parents, I say those things to them. I said, look, your kids have questions.
Mm.
You have questions.
Yeah,
There
yeah,
are some things. There are times where I've shared the message and I can tell people have questions,
mm.
and I welcome those questions,
Yeah,
and nobody asks
yeah,
because they don't believe that the setting exists
yeah, yeah,
for questions to be asked.
yeah,
So I'm like, if you have these fears that you can't ask questions, how much more do you think that they have these fears that they
yeah,
can't ask questions, right? So if that for me is at the very least is to create a platform
yeah,
for children to be able to ask the questions that they have.
yeah. Normalizing that. As a parent, what I've realized is it's harder. So to create the environment where questions can be asked, because sometimes one of the things that the question exposes is that I don't have an answer.
Yes, yes, that's
You know,
it.
and so there's a lot of the parent because I believe in trying to better myself in every area. So I'll do some research about parenting and being a father and stuff. And a lot of the theme is when you have troubled children or this and that, the issue is not the child. The issue is you have to parent yourself and change, so I have to deal emotionally with the fact that I don't have an answer for that. So sometimes when I snap, you haven't been badly behaved.
Yeah,
You've just exposed
my shortcomings.
my
Yeah,
insecurity, my lack of ability to explain this to you, my lack of knowledge about this thing. And because I wasn't emotionally intelligent in that moment, my response is to clap back or snap or tell you to go So I agree with you 100% that, you know, as as parents, what we need to do is do some of our own inner work to create an environment where um, we're just having conversations and leaving it open for somebody to have a dissenting voice.
Yeah.
You-
Yeah. I don't see anything wrong with, because like in life generally, something that I think that people mistaken for intelligence or wisdom, is they mistaken always having an answer
yeah,
as being intelligent.
yeah,
And when you mature, you start to realize actually I don't know
yeah,
is a valid response.
absolutely. Yeah,
I don't have an answer for you right now.
yeah,
However, this is the work that you and I can do
yeah,
together to
yeah,
get the answer.
yeah,
Or if it's not something that you can do together, I'll go find the answer for you.
yeah, yeah,
Meantime, maybe try looking at this. I'll give you from the well that I have,
yeah,
but I'm also recognizing that there are other wells that I can draw from.
yeah,
And I think that we don't do that. We have this pride that if I ask for help, it means that I'm failing.
mm,
And that's multi-layered.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
um, but that's a really, I think that's a thing that's really stuck with me. And I've seen it throughout my life, and I've seen it in different families. It's that it's the fear of asking for help, the fear of requesting or requiring external support.
yeah,
There are families who are so proud that they will suffer in silence, just to maintain this
the image.
image.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, that they have it going on. But at the end of the day, you're just getting worse.
yeah. You're not solving the problem.
Yeah, I'll use a very sort of surface level example. But I knew people who, back in early 2000s, they had the latest Mercedes, the E-Class or whatever it was called.
Yeah,
They had the 50-inch widescreens, and
yeah,
their house was full of, all those cabinets with all the gold, the crystal
yeah,
glasses, right? All of that. None of them worked. They didn't work. They were receiving benefits. Um, and all of this. And I mean, I knew their situation because of
yeah,
the position that I was in, but they couldn't afford their lifestyle.
yeah, yeah,
But the purpose of all of this was to show that they had it going on.
yeah, yeah,
Look at us, we've got everything under control.
yeah.
You
I mean,
know,
yeah. No, Karen.
yeah. No, so that's sort of a surface level kind of explanation of a deeper issue.
Yeah,
Um, and
yeah,
because the deeper issue is that I don't want you to. There's a thing that I think maybe we spoke about it, but I think we spoke about it when we were all together with Lena and Jess. Um, there's a thing that we lost. If we're looking at it from a Christian point of view, a biblical point of view, we lost intimacy with each other.
yeah,
We go
yeah,
back to Genesis. We lost that intimacy with one another,
mhm,
but importantly, we lost intimacy with self.
yeah,
So if I can lie to myself,
yeah,
lying to you, no problem.
yeah,
I lie to you all day long. I lie
yeah,
to myself.
yeah, yeah,
If I can lie to my wife, I definitely lie to you.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
So
yeah,
it becomes easier to tell you a lie than to expose myself as not being. There's in Hebrew, the word that we have translated to sin. That word means to fail to hit the mark.
mm,
I forgot the exact word, but when in Exodus, when they were talking about some of the children in the lineage, they said that they could throw a lance
yeah,
and never fail to hit the mark.
yeah. Never.
Um,
Okay, and that was
yeah,
a
yeah,
good.
yeah.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah,
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 yeah, yeah. The same word,
yeah,
that word is the word that we have translated as sin, but
yeah.
in that context, we didn't translate it as sin.
It's an
Um,
arch.
yeah, yeah. So it's essentially all I'm saying is I failed to hit the mark. but I don't want you to know that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I'm not going to tell you that. I'm just
Yeah.
going to pretend that I've hit the mark.
Yeah.
You know. So for for the young people, and I think the thing is that I could see that growing up. I could see that.
Mm.
Now it was evident to me that there was a disparity between the image that was being
Okay.
portrayed and
Yeah.
the life that I was living.
Mm.
And oftentimes I can see that in other people too. You can see it, and some kids are just quiet, but sometimes you see it in the way they react, in the way they are around other people. In sometimes you see a new person appears when they're around other children, other people, and and then they go home
Yeah.
and they sort of disappear into this hole, or the vice versa.
Yeah.
You know, yeah. You know, there's all of these things that are there, and I think that we, even as a community, we don't give them a platform.
Yeah.
Within reason, I say to the young people, I say, hey, look, if you have any questions, come ask me.
Yeah.
Whatever those questions are, if I have an answer, I'll give them to you. If I don't have an answer, you know, and if it's something that I think is beneficial for a wider audience, or something that I believe that maybe it needs to be discussed with people in more authority than me, like your parents, like the pastors and so forth, if that's okay with you, I will of course do that.
Yeah.
But if you know, in situations, if I believe you're in danger, of course,
Yeah.
I will I will relay that message.
Yeah.
I remember there was an event with the church in London did some years back. It was just hosted by young people, and there was this kid. He was about 16. This young boy, he came over, and I stood with him outside. And I think he was just watching, I think his sisters, you know, they were there just crying and having a wonderful time. And he stood outside, and he's like, I said, well, what's wrong? Because you know, I just feel I don't know what to do. Like it's sad. I'm like, it is sad. It is sad that you know, all these, you're seeing all these people showing all this emotion, and
Yeah.
it does create emotion in you.
Yeah.
But he wasn't sure how to release his own
Yeah.
sadness. Whatever emotion was created in him, he
Yeah.
didn't know what to do with it.
Yeah.
So I said, can I speak to you? Is that okay? You know, hey, we sort of start having this conversation, and so I started to tell him about me and explain to him about how, you know, how I was in his shoes at one point, how I feel sometimes, how even till that at that point, and even probably till now, that there are some times where I'm struggling to actually point to, this is the emotion I feel,
Yeah.
and why I feel this way, and I relate to him myself, and you know, we were able to. He was, oh yeah, sometimes like I'll do this, and
Yeah.
I was like,
Yeah.
yes, right. So now we're having this discussion, and then and those words that I said before to 14-year-old Michael, I said that to him. I said, it's
Yeah.
okay. It's okay. Sometimes you fail.
Yeah.
And you don't, you are not lessened. You are not
Mm.
less because you cry.
Yeah.
You are not less because you have allowed yourself a moment to feel what you feel.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
It
good.
doesn't make you any less of a man. In fact, right now, you don't need to focus on all that. Oh, I need to be a man and all. No, just
Yeah.
be you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just be feel what you feel in this moment.
Yeah.
And I just it's okay, you know. And I remember it was such an emotional moment. Even feel emotion just talking about it right now, but he just starts crying.
Mm.
And I'm like, oh. So younger me, I would have been like, well, okay, that's the end of that.
Yeah.
Walk away. But I had matured a little bit more at this point, and I say, okay, hey, and I'm saying to that's and he's trying to wipe it off like, no, I'm like, hey, It's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah.
You know, this is what it feels like to
Yeah.
let go of stuff.
Let it out. Yeah.
Yeah, it feels horrible at first,
Yeah.
but the reason it feels so horrible is because it's been backed up in there. It's
Yeah.
been in there for a while. And I said to him, man, you are worth everything. You are so important. You know, I made him realize that you as an individual are important.
Mm.
I don't know what you can do. I don't know what your life is and all this, but you yourself, regardless of the things that you do and however you do them, you are an important person.
Mm.
You're a wonderful person. You're amazing. And you know, I hope I got him to understand. And he just grabbed me, hugged me. I was like, oh no.
Okay.
Yeah. And we stood there. I think it was like a good 10 minutes and we just cried
Yeah.
on each other's shoulders, you know, outside. Um, and not to say that every interaction needs to be that way.
Yeah. 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 But to have the space for it.
To have the space for it, to have the option for it. Because I know that if I didn't get the option, that you know, and I'm happy to say this on here, but that's an option that you gave me. If I didn't receive that opportunity to be able to release the pain, the sadness that manifested itself as anger,
Mm.
um, if I didn't get that option, I would still be going through it now. I don't even think I would. I don't think I'd be married. Uh,
Wow.
yeah, I don't think I'd be married. Because when Jess met me, we you know, she was like, nah, God, this ain't it. I was still fighting through things.
Yeah.
Um, but that was the around that period when we had that conversation that you know, on the old sofas.
Yeah.
and it she would tell you about there was a time sort of after we've been speaking for nearly just speaking on and off and so on and speaking regularly and then for a period of time there was a time where she was like it was almost like you became a different person.
Mm.
You just you were freer and more emotionally aware and you were more open with your emotions.
Yeah.
She tells me this on a regular basis and and I didn't realize what it was, but it was a cascade of these things.
Mm.
Just before that, I started having therapy.
Mhm.
Just before that time period, I started releasing those things that I started cutting them out. Okay, this person has been a negative influence in my life, or this person's currently hurting me, and this deed that I'm doing is hurting me.
Mm.
This thing that I do to myself is hurting me. This idea that I have of self is hurting me.
Mm. Mm.
Yeah. So I started to recognize what those things were. And I remember I said to my therapist, I don't know what the things are that I don't know what all of the things are that happened to me in my past.
Yeah.
But what I know is that they're impacting me now
Mm.
and they're making it difficult for me to build relationships.
Yeah.
I want to explore that.
Mm.
That was pretty much the gist
Yeah.
of what
Yeah.
I said. And just to say that to her, I was like this. I was holding the phone. I was like,
Yeah.
and I remember she said to me, um, she was trying to find a date to book a date for the session. I said,
Yeah.
look, she said, it sounds like you're having a difficult time agreeing on a time. But I can give you a couple of days to, you know, relax a little bit more.
Yeah.
Because maybe you feel ambushed with the fact that I've called you and we're trying to sort out this date.
Yeah.
So take some time and then send me some dates that work for you and we can have this discussion again. And while I'm there, you know, sweating and everything, I realized something. I said that if she got off this phone,
Yeah.
I'll never call her again.
Mm.
Because the pain of having to explore my emotions was too much for me to do again on my own,
Yeah.
which is why I haven't done it on my own.
Yeah. Oh, say that again. Say that again. That is good. That is good.
The pain of having to explore the emotions on my own was too much, which is why I haven't done it by myself.
Well, yeah, that's good.
It's because what I remember, I think I've told you this before. My point of view of therapy is that I'm too intelligent for this.
Yeah.
I'm way too smart for this. What can they teach me that I don't? You know, and realistically, I remember school put me in therapy when I was like 14, 13. They put me in therapy. They didn't tell my parents.
Okay.
That's a different world.
Yeah.
School put me in therapy. And I had this child psychologist, and and like she was saying stuff, and I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. Like like,
Yeah.
but there were then when she started knocking on some doors, I broke down, I cried. And when I left that room, I was fuming. I was so angry. I think I got in trouble for the rest of that week. I was so angry. And eventually, you know, I got a little better, but when the option came, some years later on, as I got deeper in the depression, and again, like I said, this went on until about 22, and 22 is when like all that pain was healed, and we thank God for the change. But up until that point, when the option showed up again for therapy, I said, no, I don't want to go through that.
Yeah.
It wasn't the process of exploring. It was what the exploring made me do.
Yeah. Okay.
The fact that it weakened me.
Because you may cry, or when you realize, okay.
Yeah, I may realize that one, it's going to make me cry. Two, it's going to make me feel like I didn't have control over certain things, or I don't have control over right now. Like I can't stop myself from crying. What?
Yeah.
You know, and so I said to my therapist, I said, at the time, I said, look, if I get off the phone right now, I'm never calling you back. If I get off the phone without booking this session, I'm never going to call you back. It might be weeks, months until I have another conversation with my my friends and family, and they say, okay, you should definitely do this now. And I'm okay, fine, I'll call you then. But we need to sort this out now, because currently I haven't stopped trembling. I haven't felt this much fear ever in my life, and I have lived through some fearsome things. This is more fierce. Like this is more fearful, creating so much more fear in me than anything else. And she said, okay. So we set up an appointment for the following week. And I think after the first 2, 3, 4 sessions, the first session was the worst thing I've ever done in my whole life. You know, I will, because this is again growth. This is two years plus now of therapy.
Yeah.
Session 1, we knocked on the door. It was like a question about sort of just exploring this idea of emotions and releasing emotions.
Yeah.
You know, I've always had this. There's always this phrase that sticks in my head that I've heard since I was a child.
Yeah.
Men don't cry.
Yeah.
And that was military put in me. Right. And so as we're exploring this little door there, I feel so it's just like, you know, it's okay. Like, you know, she's trying to allow, and maybe it's what she said or whatever. I just remembered. The floodgates just boom, right? And I started crying, and I the shock on my face, and I was like, "What
happened?
Right? Without any sort of conscious thought, I just went.
Is that hitting yourself?
just punched myself in the face repeatedly.
Wow.
Without any conscious thought. I was like, stop crying. Just, and then once the tears stopped, I was like, anyway, what are we talking about?
Wow.
As if nothing had happened.
Yeah.
And because it was online, there was nothing she could do. She can, yeah. And I'm just, and I just carried on. I was like, yeah, yeah. So we were talking about something.
Yeah.
But it was completely normal to me. I didn't see anything wrong with it, you know, why this whole thing? So specifically about young men, about the especially in the context of how I grew up.
Yeah.
It was never okay to be emotional.
Yeah. Yeah.
To have emotion. The
Yeah.
only emotion that was recognized was anger and horniness.
Yeah.
This is genuinely okay. You're angry, you're happy, you're horny. That's it. And I'm saying this callously because that's what was said to me.
Yeah.
That's the information that was imparted to me. You know, as a man, you should have girls here, girls here, girls here, girls here. That's all you need to do as a man is have girls.
Yeah.
That's it. that's all you need to do as a man. And then you know you get money and have girls. That's all your life summed up.
Yeah.
So everything that didn't equate to that was a failure. Anything that deviated from that point of view made you a pariah. You know, even in the context of, I remember being in a funeral and men being told not to cry, being prevented from crying.
Wow.
I myself, at the funeral of my grandmother, I was prevented from crying. So much so that to the point where I was angry for a year, an entire year, where I had this rage that was in me because I hadn't had the opportunity to mourn. Because anytime I cried, somebody appeared almost by magic, just showed up. Yeah, you know, and they would tell me, be strong for someone. Yeah.
I hate that.
Be strong for this person. You got to be strong for that person. Be strong for and nobody was ever strong for me.
Yeah.
You know, and because I didn't
I even think it's a misnomer because again we've now got to the point where we've established actually crying isn't a weakness, you know. So it's not even like an opposite. You crying means so don't cry, be strong. These things aren't mutually exclusive, you know.
Yeah.
If anything, because of everything you've described and that visceral fear of facing emotions and stuff, maybe the strong thing is to deal with it, you know, or to let it out.
The strength is manifested in facing your emotion.
Yeah.
I'm showing strength by acknowledging these emotions, by living through these emotions. I'm like, okay, I have these emotions. I will never be able to point them out if I never explore them.
Yeah.
I'll never be able to say that this is how I feel if I never explore them.
Yeah.
Because anger is such an all-encompassing emotion. It's easy.
Yeah.
It's easy to get angry. And it has this incorrect connotation of strength.
Yeah.
And so men gravitate to anger.
Yeah.
Because, you know, and you'll find oftentimes when people have a difficulty dealing with their emotions, that when they're confronted, they react by raising their voice or getting, you know, because anger is easy.
Yeah.
In their head, it allows them to channel those emotions.
Yeah.
But all it's doing is masking the emotion you actually feel.
I was talking to my kids the other day, and we were talking about this specific thing, and we were just saying the thing about anger is warm. So you gravitate to it. But often anger isn't really what you feel.
Yeah.
You know, it might be that it's a mask for disappointment. It might be you feel sad, you feel disillusioned, you feel let down, you feel betrayed, rejected. So, I mean, we got them an emotion wheel. So they can, okay, so because you know, even how's your day? Good. How's your day? Bad. Like there are more descriptive words that you can use, and just like you said, being able to name it, I think it's such a powerful thing. Actually, I feel betrayed. That's what I feel. You know, and when I was doing some research on burnout, there were these sisters that were talking about burnout in one setting, and they were talking about growing up in a family environment where difficult emotions were never explored. You're not allowed to have them because they thought difficult emotions was a cave with no way out that was rat, snake, alligator, bat infested. So I'm going to do everything I can not to go. Whereas the reality is difficult emotions are a tunnel, but you have to go through them. The not going through them only puts you in a situation where you're like a pressure cooker, you know? And a lot of our young black men, have been in situations that we've seen some stuff. You know, we've gone through some stuff, and not being given, and unfortunately with emotions, unless you deal with it, you don't get rid of it. You suppress it, suppressing it, and it comes up in challenging behavior, argumentative, anger, all that kind of stuff. But it's not, those are not the root issue.
Yeah, and oftentimes, you know, if I can't, so if I'm not hurting myself, I'm hurting you.
Yeah,
that's oftentimes it's manifested that way. You find a lot of the times the sadness, the disappointment, the insecurity that I have for self, because I won't deal with it, I will project it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you know, abuse can be manifested in many different ways. It's not always physical. But I also believe promiscuity to be a form of abuse. Of self and of others. So because there is a value that I don't believe that I have. I don't believe that I am of a certain value. But I can get that from you. Maybe I also potentially don't believe that you have a certain value. So there are so many different layers. I'm not saying that these are the only reasons, but oftentimes it's the, you mentioned earlier on, is now my gift, it appears, has always been speaking. But because it wasn't nurtured, I wasn't taught to explore it, so I abused it. And so it was easier for me to speak to women. When I discovered this, I was like, I've got the women part down. I just need to get the money part. Yeah. Yeah, exactly, right. I've made man. That's it. So that was but that's how these things often manifest themselves. Because I'm not exploring self. I'm not recognizing who self is. So I'm just gonna go out of my way and figure out self. But unfortunately, I'm gonna leave a trail. Broken people attract broken people.
I liken it to, going back to you being a trainer, I liken it to cheap calories. You know, so like you get, like, my body is a machine, it needs fuel. So I can eat stuff that's good for me, or I can eat stuff that's not good for me.
Yeah.
Both of them will give me fuel for now, but one of them will give me longevity and is good form.
Yeah.
So, in fact, I was at a marriage seminar. They were talking about the relationship between husband and wife and this concept of don't get angry, get curious. So when something happens between you and your wife, or rather than, so yes, acknowledge the fact that you feel away, but ask yourself, well, why do I feel like this? Because exactly like you say, most people will push out rather than look in. And a lot of, high risk, this is my opinion, sometimes high risk behavior, sometimes is because as a society, we're not necessarily being encouraged to look naked in the mirror and look at the issue and look at ourselves, look at the real issue. It's too painful to do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to medicate. So the medication may be mindless scrolling on my phone. It might be TV, it might be movies, it might be hard drugs, it might be alcohol, it might be cigarettes, it might be promiscuity, like you say, it might be church. It might like there's so many things but because I don't want to deal with the issue, I recognize that if I go down this road, it's gonna be uncomfortable. I'm not gonna go down this road. But these emotions are still there. So shut up emotions, drink, 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 drink. Shut up emotions, girls, shut up it's they're all manifestations of a heart.
Yes. There's a thought process that I had a while ago, and I was trying to deal with the so going back to the point about the church and helping young men. I was trying to I was struggling with relationship, horizontal, vertical relationship. So struggling with that relationship with God, and it was the relationship this way was definitely not working. This way was spotty at best, and there's a point. Somebody I heard you have to be naked before God. And my brain stopped and I said, I can't. I have been naked before so many people that nakedness is now a source of shame. That I now consider nakedness as a sign, a symbol of shame. I assigned so the idea of being naked before God was shameful. Because I hear naked and I immediately hear shame. And so now it now was marred. The whole idea of being intimate was marred. Because intimacy meant shame. It was such a weird dichotomy, and I'm looking at it and I'm like, this is not how it should be. But that was my reality. That was my lived experience. That was the life that I that was all that I knew at the time. And it was it was a lot of hard work, but and I think that oftentimes we refuse to deal with the mind aspect of spiritual growth. Internal growth, deal with the inner man. But every aspect of that inner man is one, the spirit, the mind, the body, or you've said this, to me several times, how you do anything is how you do everything, right? And so how I treat my body oftentimes is a reflection of how I'm treating my spirit, how I'm treating my mind. I always ask people this question, said, when you're is it easy to pray when you're sick? So you're feeling really sick and like just is
Yeah.
do you find it easy to get up and pray?
Yeah.
And they say, no, it's not. It doesn't. It's actually quite a struggle. Okay, well, or what about when you're sad and you're going through everything, the world is on your shoulders, or maybe
Yeah.
somebody's died, and is it easy to pray? And said, no, because I'm sad. I'm like, okay, so if physical and emotional, mental, psychological was completely removed,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
all you have to do is work on your spirit,
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
should
Yeah.
be it should not be easy. Sorry, it should not be difficult
Yeah.
to pray. You should be
Yeah.
able to just get up and pray
Absolutely.
because it's completely removed.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But once you start to understand that those three things work together
Yeah.
to make you,
Yeah.
then you will realize that if I don't take care of my body, my mind, and my spirit, then I will never be complete.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
and so we're not taught about this importance. We're not made to understand, or we're not shown the way to understand this. That in actuality, I have to take care of them because some people don't consider taking care. They consider taking care of their body to be a vanity.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
I'm not talking about, oh, I'm a
Yeah.
bodybuilder. Nah. but are you healthy?
Yeah. Yeah.
Are you physically healthy?
Yeah.
Whatever that looks like for you,
Yeah.
are you physically or healthy?
Yeah.
How's your gut?
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
How's your heart?
Yeah.
Like, are you like, if we were to do a full checkup on you, will you be considered
Yeah.
healthy?
Yeah. Absolutely.
And mentally, we hear mental health and we immediately think mental disease.
Yeah. Yeah. Mental illness. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But mental health is the same as saying physical health.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Tell her. Yeah.
You know,
Absolutely.
so if my body is sick, I go to a doctor.
Yeah.
Right. But this is the thing is sometimes I go to a doctor even if I'm not sick.
Yeah.
I just feel unwell.
Yeah. No,
Right.
it's true. It's true. I
Yeah.
mean, I love that. I really hate it when you hear celebrities talking about something mental health, and what they mean is mental illness.
Exactly. Exactly.
Because
It
like, as I
bothers
can
me.
say, yeah, we are spirit, soul, and body, and
Yeah.
these things are intertwined. I know I agree with 100% what you're saying, and I think that, and maybe not necessarily specifically for young people, but it's something that we may not, we as the church, we're not necessarily being clear on. So that I heard a preacher say that spiritual problems need spiritual solutions.
Yeah.
Physical problems need physical solutions. So if the issue is, I don't know my place in the world, definitely pray. But there are going to be some other things you're going to do to help you figure that out. I want to figure out where my gifts are. Definitely pray, but do a self-assessment. There are things that you lean towards, maybe have a conversation with, because some of the things that you've talked about, you're alluding to the significant influence of mentors in your life. So sometimes it's a positive thing, and sometimes
Sometimes it's a negative.
exactly, it can be a negative thing. So it's important. So the first thing is, to my 15-year-old self, to my younger self, older people, we're not perfect. Like, I'm sorry if we told you that. But yeah, but on behalf of everybody, yeah, everybody who's older than you, no, we're not perfect.
Yeah.
But I think developing that kind of understanding of God wants me to thrive, but I am these three parts. So he wants me to, he doesn't, so unfortunately, I think the church for a long time has concentrated on thriving spiritually.
Spiritually, yeah.
Which is great. We need to do that. But at the exclusion of thriving in your mind and thriving in your soul and thriving in your body. Yeah. Because of the fact that these things are intertwined, if I only thrive in one area, it's going to make me lopsided.
Yeah. I remember you had one of these conversations about how we eat and how many black men are dying from heart conditions and
Yep.
heart things and strokes and our salt content in our food,
Yep.
oil and so forth, right? That's not something you pray against.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean? Like you'll find these people who are, I'm a prayer warrior. They're dying at 40 years old of heart things that could have been avoided.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not talking about congenital issues and things like that,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
but yeah, I'm talking about things that were avoidable if they had done X, Y, Z earlier on, or
Yeah.
taking care of their bodies
Yeah.
better, taking care of their minds better.
Absolutely.
You know, I knew of a man who died. He wasn't. No, he was in his 30s. He had a wife and three or four kids.
Yeah.
And he died because he was when he died, he was working two jobs. He was working two jobs. He was sending most of his money back home. I think he was Nigerian, so he was sending most of his money back to Nigeria,
Yeah.
and to help his family and all these
Yeah.
things. And he died of stress.
Mm. Yeah.
But I'm sat down. I'm like, what's the prayer for that?
Yeah.
Because that's what a lot of people are going to do. That's what a lot of people are going to say.
Yeah.
We pray against early death and or premature death and all this. Yes, let's just remove just for a second. Let's just put that to a side. The spiritual impacts of these things. Let's just put that aside
Yeah.
for a second. Are we saying as a people that there are no physical issues, no mental issues that could potentially impact the human body in such
Yeah.
a way to cause premature death?
Yeah. Exactly.
That's essentially what we're saying.
Yeah.
So that's something that, like my situation of you're always in the hospital, you're
Yeah.
always sick. I'm like, I have an issue that I can't do it. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like I'm having operations
Yeah.
to fix an issue.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So it's not a I can't. Yes, I should definitely pray.
Yeah.
As a believer, yes, I should pray. But
Yes.
there are some situations where actually I do need surgery to fix this issue.
Yeah. Yeah.
If it's such an issue where I'm healed miraculously,
Great.
great.
Yeah. Exactly.
Because I have that testimony.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. But there are some things that had to be removed from me physically.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And I'm not gonna say I'm gonna pray against the doctors for doing that.
Yeah. As a doctor, I've always, because people have talked to me like, oh, how do you marry the faith and the medicine? From my point of view, I think the question is the answer is complex.
Yes.
Modern Western medicine is great for an emergency and maybe not necessarily great for long-term conditions. And on top of that, from my point of view, wherever healing comes from, God is the author of healing. So whether he uses the doctors or surgeons, or whether he does it miraculously, I just think exactly the point that you're making. That I think that when you read the Bible, God has given us dominion and authority, and what society did from a soul point of view is abdicate that responsibility. So now I don't have to worry about being healthy because God can heal me. I don't have to worry about taking care of my finances because God's going to bless me. I don't have to worry about my emotions because all I've got to do is pray. So I don't have to do anything. Whereas if you look at the Bible, God is really often putting the ball back in our court. You draw nigh to me,
Yes.
and I'll draw nigh to you.
Yes.
Open your mouth wide and I'll fill it. But I have to open my mouth wide. I will bless the works of your hands, but my hands have to be doing something to get the blessing.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that my opinion is, unfortunately, I think it was a soul issue. The church, unfortunately, misinterpreted a lot of things and abdicated responsibility. And now it seemed like a revelation. Huh? I've got to exercise. Yeah. Huh? I've got to drink water. Yeah.
You know, it's like there's I think the word is Hellenistic, but I might be wrong. You know, when we moved sort of from spiritual understanding into more the body is
Yeah, yeah.
everything. You know, like the in ancient Israel, for example, in when you go back into the Old Testament, the mind was seen to be here in the heart and so
Yeah.
forth. And then we moved away into the brain because it's a physical thing that we can see
Yeah, yeah.
and so forth. And so it became the body became, you know, and you see it in the statues that were created, the
Yep.
body became the thing. It was the beautiful thing. Now, I think this is my opinion. I think that Christianity tried to move away from that so much so that there
Yeah.
were anything that relates to the body is
Yeah. Yeah.
and so they in order to separate themselves from that idea,
Yeah.
they have just gone sort of said no body things. We just
Yeah,
do
exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. But that then creates another issue, another problem, like we've just been saying, that now I don't take care of my body,
Yeah.
only take care of my spirit, but the spirit has to live somewhere. It has
Yeah.
to, you know, if we continue with this belief that the body is a temple, the temple was taken care of.
Yes. Yes.
The
Yep.
temple looked good.
Yep. Yep.
It looked like a temple.
Yep.
It looked like the thing that lived in it was valuable.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Yep.
the point. Like it was everything on the temple was something of worth, something
Yep.
that costs something.
Yeah.
And so if I was to enter into Jerusalem at the time, I was wow, I want to go to that building.
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
Yeah, because you know whatever lives in that building must be of worth
Yeah.
considering the condition of the outside.
Yeah. 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 Okay. Tell him. I
Yeah,
like it. Yeah.
but now we're like, nah, you know, the condition of the outside
Doesn't
is
matter.
what it is.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. I do think that, like you say, sometimes it's there's so many things that we've conflated. So if I take care of my body, it's vanity. It's not. You wouldn't say that you wouldn't say that when I service my car. It's not vanity. It's for the purpose of keeping the car young and working functionally for a long time. You know how we got here.
You see people who it'll be like driving in first gear everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah.
And just
Yeah.
first
Yeah.
gear
Yeah.
the whole you know, and then
Yeah.
oh it's broken now. Let me get a new car.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. You can't do that with your body. You can't do it.
You
Yeah.
know, so you never explore all the other gears. You don't
Yeah.
explore
Yeah.
what you don't allow the car to breathe. You don't allow it
Yeah.
to have time to actually work in the way it's supposed to work.
Yeah.
And
And just like you
those
said before, the reality is it has impact on my ability to be spiritually
yes,
involved.
yes,
So if I am, it's not to say I can't pray, but it's going to be a harder hill to climb
yeah,
if I'm not feeling well, either here or mentally. So let's do our best to deal with those things because I believe that. So I mean, one of the things that you alluded to, and I'll just flesh the story out because I know we've talked about it, that the original relationship between God and man, the Bible calls Adam, who said he was naked and unashamed. And when sin came into the world, I think it was you that pointed this out to me. The first thing that Adam hid from was himself.
with himself. Yeah,
He notices he's naked. He's like, huh? What? Doesn't want to see.
exactly,
He doesn't want to see them.
exactly.
Then he's
Yeah,
hiding from his wife.
then he hides from eat. Yeah, yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
And then he hides from God. And so that I think there's two themes that I get from that. So the first thing is shame causes you to run away from things that you should run towards, because the solution to our problems is in a relationship with God. So why would I run away from that? And also, like, isn't that the issue that we're all dealing with? All of the things, the reason why, this is my opinion, the devil as a strategist has introduced trauma into the world so that this is our state. Don't don't see me, you know. Whereas God's original plan was for us just to be, naked and this is me, you know. So
because why else put that line in there?
Yeah.
Why put that line right there? And he was naked, and they were naked and unashamed.
Yeah.
Why is that relevant?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Because the story can continue without it.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right.
You know, it is completely unnecessary part of the story.
Yeah, absolutely.
But until you actually realize, that's the point. That's the point. Yeah, that's the whole point of that whole story there at the beginning, is that there was no shame.
Yeah.
There was no hiding.
Yes. Yes.
Because he wasn't ashamed of himself.
Yes. Yeah.
He wasn't ashamed of her.
Yeah.
And then he wasn't ashamed of himself in relation to God.
Yeah. But like even like to piggyback on that, because he wasn't ashamed of himself, then he could be his best in relationship with her and in relationship with God. All the things that we've had to do, the learning emotional intelligence, the crying, the therapy, all of that is to get back to, okay, this is me. So I can now show up for you. I can show up. No, sorry, carry on.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, no, it's just something just popped in my head. Something that we often think about. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. We often would have thought about Adam. Thought about that he would have been a perfect man. He would have been perfect.
Yeah.
Because our idea of perfection was that he wouldn't have made any mistakes.
Yeah.
But if he was naked and unashamed, it means that he would have made mistakes and not been ashamed of them. He would have often missed the mark.
Yeah.
And not been ashamed to miss the mark.
Yeah.
Because he was learning.
Yeah.
You know, you have to understand in the concept of a baby growing.
Yeah.
They often miss the mark.
Yeah.
And the only reason they feel ashamed is because we tell them.
Yeah.
You know, the only reason they will never try that thing again is because we say, well, you're rubbish at this.
Yeah.
You're not good at this.
Yeah.
You know, and so we create this idea in them not to try again.
Yeah.
But he would have, this is my belief. I feel like he would have made mistakes. And because of his relationship with God, God would have said, I suggest do it this way. Or it's okay, do that. Since we believe that God is the ultimate parent, and a sign of a good parent is to actually allow your children to make mistakes.
Yeah.
Because that's how our brains work. We have to learn from those mistakes. I think that if he never made mistakes ever,
how's he gonna learn?
Yeah.
No, I even have Bible to back that up. So we if you read the beginning, you understand that God said to Adam, be fruitful and multiply. Now, obviously, as a linguist, you understand that one language sometimes doesn't, when it gets translated, sometimes you lose a perspective or a way or a depth to it. And my understanding of the literal translation of the Hebrew, when God said to Adam, be fruitful and multiply, God is essentially saying to Adam, become. Now, because of the fact that, so as I'm born, I start here, God is saying become, but the become I'm going to be is here. So to get here, I'm going to have to learn. I'm going to have to train. So like for God, it was inevitable. Okay, so you fell. Let's get up. It wasn't a problem. The mistakes are not a problem for God.
Yeah.
The learning isn't an issue for him. But the introduction of trauma and shame has put us in a situation whereas I should just have a straight line from here to here, mistakes. Okay, I'm here. I'm now stunting my own progress because I can't get over, mistakes and shame. And so that's a perspective that I hadn't seen before. Thank you for that. Now, I mean, this has been we could go on.
But, because yeah, I was just about to say, because like, if you think of the whole concept of the Bible, is all throughout is learning.
Yeah.
It's not just be.
Yeah.
It's you don't just arrive at the destination and you've made it.
Yeah.
The whole concept is about a journey.
Yeah.
And I think so. That's but honestly, I'm very grateful that we've had this chat, because this is more of a reflection of how we just talk on a regular basis.
Conversation.
Yeah. Like, not to say that all our conversations are deep.
Yeah. No, but so on a serious note, I think that it is good for men,
yes,
to have a place where there are concepts and issues that we can explore amongst other men. I think there's a definite positive in that.
I think that we should do something like this with more men. I think that even if it's just we have like a Zoom call like this with multiple people, and we have these discussions, even if it's for like a short period of time, and everybody can say their point of view, or even if it's like one of those situations where we all just sit around a table or just just talk, and there just happens to be a camera.
But one of my friends, so him, I won't shout him out on the Zoom, but so he was my groomsman when I got married in 2009, and I was his groomsman last year. And at his bachelor party, there was a restaurant in Manchester. There was about 15, 20 men, and we just sat and we just talked. And every man in there was like, we need more spaces like this.
Yes.
We need more spaces like this. So so I've already got it. So keep tuned.
That's it. No, I honestly, I appreciate it. I think I've been, because I've been I'm often the youngest in our group. So I often, I remember once I was saying things that I've been exploring, and people were like, "How old are you?"
Yeah. Michael gets that a lot. Yeah.
And they were very surprised that I was saying these things, but I'm like, sometimes it really does feel like I've lived a long time.
Yeah.
And but I think that I've had the grace of having the opportunity of taking the time to explore these conversations, to explore these topics. And I have a circle of people around me that I can actually explore these topics with. And I think that that's really the takeaway from all this. And I think that if we do anything, is to create a platform. It's to have a platform, because a lot of the things we said here, yes, we mentioned young men, we mentioned boys and young people in general, but these are things that we as adults don't have now.
Yeah. Still dealing with it today in my 40s.
Yeah. So I think that's the takeaway, is to have a platform within the community, within the church, within the family, within the friendship groups, where we can be naked, where we can be free, where I can share with it. It doesn't necessarily have to be personal information, but at the very least, I can explore some of the questions that maybe I don't know where to get the answer from. And I can hear from other men who are potentially going through the same thing.
And I think the great thing about it is, there will be some of the people who hopefully will be like, I can relate to that. So again, before we go, I want to thank you for your time. I know that you're a busy man, being jobless, and
this is a great time. It's a great time. I'm a house husband right now.
But I want you to close us out with so you're a speaker and you're a preacher. I want you to close us out with something. So again, you speak to you 15 to 18, you know, in the church or out of the church, finding your way. What close us out with a message for that young man?
Ooh, it's not your fault. It's really, you did nothing wrong. You were a child. You are a child. Be a child. Explore your childhood. Live life, because what you're going to do over the next few years is you're going to blame yourself. You're going to tell yourself that you should have done, could have done, and you would have done, and all of this. But it will do nothing but make you miserable, and alienate others and alienate yourself. So it's not your fault. Life isn't always fair, and that's fine. However, what you make of life is important. And you will make something of yourself if you just recognize that, yes, these things happened. Yes, I've lived through this, but you've lived through it and you've come out the other side. You've come out the other side. You are a better person every day. You're a better person right now. That's all that matters. Right now is who you are. Right now is all that matters. Don't worry about tomorrow. Right now. Don't worry about yesterday. Right now. You're a better person right now. And that's something that I wish somebody told me, is that I am better right now, better than I was yesterday, right now. Doesn't matter what happens tomorrow. Right now, I'm better than I was yesterday. And that's it.
Thank you very much, sir. So till the next installment of podcast, we'll see you guys later.
Thank you, Doc.